as well.
I meant that in terms of a
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
the
sorry.
boy spelled B-O-I-Z. Two I's and a Z.
Okay.
What's this?
Both teams ready?
Yep.
That's one. A 2013 paper by Yasnikov et al. Demonstrated that this problem is solvable for finely generated nilpotent groups. Although the decidability of this problem is unknown for the case of 3 or 4 inputs, an exponential time solution has been discovered for a variant in which each input must begin with a different symbol. The namesake of this problem formulated the unrelated problem of constructing a Turing degree between 0 and 0 prime. The proof of the undecidability of this problem relies on the fact that solutions to it can be constructed to represent a Turing machine's computational history, which allows for a reduction to the halting problem. In visualization of this problem, solutions consist of a sequence of blocks such that the strings formed on the top and the bottom halves of both blocks match, which at points named this decision problem named in part after its formulator and yield post. That's time. Sorry, time is called. It's called a post correspondence problem. Toss of 2. Esteem for workers of this ethnic group grew when one of them stayed to die with Willy Merkel during a 1934 disaster in which 3 Nazi-backed Germans and 6 members of this ethnic group died. A 2015 Jennifer Pedom documentary titled For This Ethnic Group profiles a man who works for Russell Price's company, IMAX. A description of this ethnic group's city of Najwe, called Namche Bazaar in English, opens Jonathan Neal's book, Tigers of the Snow, which describes how this group forged its identity in the 1934 Nanga Parbat disaster. In April 2014, members of this ethnic group, who were part of the NMA, announced that they would not work for the remainder of the year after 16 of these people were killed.
Shot this.
Yeah.
Nice.
Sure, but here is your bonus. A startling example of this chord function occurs at the start of Beethoven's First Symphony, where it resolves to the subdominant F major. For example, name this chord function that tonicizes a note other than the overall tonic and has a root a perfect fifth above that of the note. Chords with this function are referred to as 5 of the scale degree with that they tonicize.
Something like a tritone.
So tritone substitution.
This is called a secondary dominant. The aforementioned Beethoven chord gains additional force from the 7th B flat, which forms this dissonant interval with the third of the chord E. This interval is often called a diabolus in music.
So that would be a tritone.
Yes. A dominant 7th chord in one key can also be respelled as a German augmented 6th in another, allowing for this type of modulation. The diminished leading tone 7th can also be used for this process due to its symmetry.
This is a tritone substitution. I mean, I guess it seems like it's kind of an
What do you got?
inversion.
Say something.
An inversion.
No, it's called enharmonic modulation. You guys
That's
know
what
what
I've heard before.
Toss of 3. The confusion of descriptive reduction and explanatory reduction in accounts of this phenomenon is critiqued in Wayne Proudfoot's book titled For It. This phenomenon, with a 2-word name, was classed into 2 types like public ordinary and public extraordinary by Richard Swinburne, who claimed that instances of it should be assessed with the principle of credulity. The doxastic practice of forming M-beliefs based on this phenomenon is defended in William Alston's best-known book, which is subtitled For the Epistemology of This Phenomenon. A book titled For This Phenomenon with a 2-word name quotes from accounts collected by Dr. Starbuck in its section on conversion, a distinction between the healthy-minded and the sick.
So like religious experience.
Here's your bonus. After being sentenced to death for kidnapping and rape, this man wrote Cell 2455 Death Row for 10 months each. In this California prisoner, he became a cause célèbre for opponents of the death penalty in the 1950s.
I don't know. No idea.
This is Carroll Chessman. This California governor was unable to commute Chessman's sentence. He defeated Richard Nixon in 1962 but lost his bid for a 3rd term for Ronald Reagan.
Brown? Jerry?
Yeah, it's Pat Brown. Chessman was convicted and sentenced under California's version of the Federal Kidnapping Act, one of the little laws named for this American icon, whose young son was kidnapped and murdered in 1932 in a crime that Bruno Hoffman was convicted of. That's correct for 10 minutes. Toss of 4. 10 years after this union was founded, 7 members of its senior leadership were acquitted of ordering the murder of Clement Leibowitz. This union won a lengthy legal battle against the Kelwood Corporation after its members launched a strike in Little Rock, Arkansas. A leader of this union called for a strike by reciting a Yiddish saying that were she to betray her cause, her upheld hand would wither on her arm. This Benjamin Schlesinger and David Dubinsky were two longtime leaders of this union, which staged a strike of over 60,000 people in the Great Revolt in 1910, a year after Clara Lemlet incited members of this union to strike in the uprising of the 20,000. Membership in this union rose sharply after the death of 146 people in New York City's Ash Building in the 1911 Triangle Shirley's factory fire. For example, what union represented laborers in the clothing industry was known by a 5-letter acronym.
Sounds real, but I don't know.
That's time. It's the ILGWU, or the International Ladies Garment Workers Union.
It sounds really interesting.
Toss a 5. I'm translating this poet. An author wrote that if light appears without ruining the eyes, we undo a bit of the cloth. That translator's introduction to this poet recommends viewing the liberal use of brackets as a free space of imaginal adventure. This poet predicted that not one girl, I think, who looks on the light of the sun will ever have wisdom like this. This author of the oft-quoted line, "Someone will remember us, I say, even in another time," wrote in another poem, "May you sleep on the breast of your delicate friend." This poet wrote that rather than an army of horses or an army of ships, the most beautiful thing on the black earth is what you love. Anne Carson's translation of this poet, If Not Winter, opens with a poem that ends Sappho? That's right.
Good.
Nice. Here's your bonus. The name for this belief system was coined in a 1995 essay by media theorists Richard Barber and Andy Cameron, who linked its rise to the romantic individualism of Stuart Brand, who founded the Whole Earth Catalog. Renampoint speech named this ideology that, according to Barber and Cameron, married concepts derived from the New Left and the New Right with elements of anti-statism, 1960s counterculture, and techno-utopianism.
What else do we have inside?
What do you got?
New Age.
This is called Californian ideology.
Sure.
The Californian ideology traces to the ideas of this Canadian media theorist who wrote that the medium is the message and coined the term Blue Village. Adam Curtis's documentary about the Californian ideology, All Watched Over by Machines of Loving Grace, is named for a poem by this California poet and novelist who also wrote In Watermelon Sugar.
It's the Bill Burton, Jefferson.
Richard Brogdon.
Okay.
You got 10 points.
Yeah. I just remember that all the machines of upgrade was a large part of my personality.
Here is awesome 6. The symmetry parameter in this theory is defined as 1/2 the integral of the intensity average cosine of the angle. This formalism predicts that the extinction efficiency is largest when the dimensionless size parameter is close to unity, but approaches 2 in the geometric limiting case. In this formalism, as the size parameter increases, the forward lobe becomes significantly larger than the backward lobe. In general, this theory does not assume that the internal fields are quasi-static. It is derived by expanding the solution to Maxwell's equations into infinite multiple series of spherical partial waves. This theory explains the reduction of visibility by aerosols in urban areas, and the weak wavelength dependence of this theory explains the white color of clouds. 10 points in this theory of light scattering from spherical particles. That's theory. Here's your bonus. Reactions taking advantage of this effect may be used to produce sarcophagine or other macrocyclic ligands. 10 points each. Name this effect in which the kinetics and selectivity of a reaction are improved by the organization of reactants in the coordination sphere.
Like the inter-sphere mechanism, maybe. Inter-sphere mechanism.
This is called a template effect. By providing a potassium ion as a template, one of these molecules forms in a variant of the Williamson synthesis in place of a linear ether. Yeah. Like ordinary ammonium salts, crown ethers may be used as this sort of compound, which allows ionic reactants to enter organic solvents. Yeah.
Phase transfer catalyst. That's how you do it.
Toss 7. A woman nicknamed the Dark Eyes married 2 rulers of these domains. A ruler of one of these domains refused to answer a royal writ of quo warranto by arguing that he held his lands sequiter regale, or like unto a king. William III of the Barros family ruled one of these domains that collectively contained the highest concentration of Mott and Bailey castles in the world. 2 rulers of these domains, Humphrey de Bohun and Roger Mortimer, waged matches.
Oh, nice. That's just martial words. Oh my God.
Here is your bonus. May Kendall wrote an 1885 comic poem titled For the Lay of a Type of One things, one of which Charles Knight finds himself facing while hanging off a cliff in Thomas Hardy's A Pair of Blue Eyes. From what's each? Name these things collected by the historical person Mary Anning, whose shop is visited by a literary character who sees a woman named Tragedy napping in a meadow while he looks for these things in the undercliff.
Fossils.
Yes. Like Charles Smithson in John Fowles' The French Lieutenant's Woman, this real-life Victorian was interested in fossils and wrote about them in town geology in his novel Alton Locke. This Christian socialist defended Darwinism in The Water Babies.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, Claudia and her brother look for fossils on the beach in Moon Tiger, a Booker Prize-winning novel by an author with this first name and the surname Lively. In Ulysses, Molly Bloom stands in for a Homeric woman of this name. 30 points. Here is toss of 8. Description acceptable. A passage in this section notes how, under the moonlight, a familiar room can become neutral territory somewhere between the real world and fairyland, where the actual and the imaginary may meet. This section describes a fierce sculpture of an eagle carrying thunderbolts and arrows that hang over a doorway. A patriarchal personage who spends his time recalling good dinners, and a taciturn former general are among the group of good old gentlemen profiled in this section. The end of this section uses the metaphor of decapitation for the firing of the narrator after a presidential election. In this section, which is followed by a short chapter about a rose bush outside a prison door, the narrator...
This is like the opening of the Scarlet Letter. It
That's-
wasn't CrossFit. Yes.
Here's your bonus. The night before this battle, the Arabic army was forced to burn all of its baggage under heavy cavalry harassment for 10 points each. Give the English or Arabic name that denotes this 724 CE battle between the Turgesh Khaganate under the warlord Suluk and the Umayyad Caliphate, which was fought in the banks of the river Jutsartes.
Well, I found the hard part.
What do you got? Oh, the trench.
This is like the day first.
That's correct. It is the Day of Thirst. The Umayyad army fought during the Day of Thirst in its quest to capture this fertile area of Central Asia, which was the source of prized heavenly horses imported into China.
I forgot about it.
It is. After the decisive loss in the Day of Thirst, the Umayyad army fell back to this city in modern-day Uzbekistan that later served as capital of Tamerlane.
It's all done.
20 days. That's awesome. 9. This was the title of a painting that inspired the lines, "Don't shoot until the light of freedom glinting. On your gun barrel you see the general fear," which appear in a Frank O'Hara poem on seeing that painting at the Museum of Modern Art. That painting of this title was, according to the unauthorized biography, What Did I Do?, an attempt to create the most controversial painting of our time and to bridge abstract and figurative art, and made the career of Larry Rivers. An art museum in Winona, Minnesota holds one of the 2 surviving copies of another painting of this title that depicts, among others, a black man named Prince Whipple. This painting appears in the background of a later work that depicts a woman holding a blue and white teacup.
Washington crossing the Delaware.
Yeah,
That's the whole time.
That was a revolution.
Oh, yeah.
That was fake.
I'm really curious
Here
about
is your bonus.
No, that's it.
Rivaroxaban is an inhibitor of this enzyme, as is the serpin ZPI. For temperance each, named as serine protease, also inhibited by TFPI. Protein Z appears to help in the degradation of this enzyme.
Trypsin, Synogen.
It was a piece one of those acronyms.
What do you got?
Trypsin?
Factor X.
I hate
Factor
clotting.
10, rather. Factor X, or 10, participates in this process of forming blood clots, which undergoes intrinsic and extrinsic pathways that both lead to the activation of factor X, or 10.
Coagulation.
That's right. This enzyme, also known as factor 3, provides an alternate name for the extrinsic pathway of the coagulation cascade. It complexes with factor 7A to activate factor 10.
So I have to know things at this point.
I don't know this crap. I never have. Fibrase.
That's called tissue factor.
Oh, yeah,
You got that.
Yeah, just go watch it.
They had mentioned the
Toss of 10. You got 10 points on that.
Yeah.
Toss of 10. Victor Hamilton notes that this woman's actions are described with the Hebrew word nabat, while Abraham's similar actions are described with the word sakat. This is the only woman specifically mentioned in the Gemara commentary in the sections of the Mishnah, mentioning certain locations where a person should say, "Blessed be he who wrought miracles for our ancestors in this place." In Luke 17:32, Jesus tells his disciples to remember this woman, before saying that those who try to make their life secure will lose it, but those who lose their life will keep it. This woman, who's called Edith in the Midrash, fails to reach Zoar after her husband attempts to offer up their 2 daughters in place of 2 angels. She does not need those angels.
So like Lot's wife.
That's right.
Nice. Yeah.
I get a lot of those questions. Here's your bonus. Simplicius argued that the authors of these texts should not fall short of the megalonoia, or greatness of intellect of their source, for 10 points each. Name this type of text, the best known of which was authored by Alexander of Aphrodisias. At the Avicenna can have read a book 40 times without understanding before being helped by Al-Farabi's text of this type. What do you got? Guide. No, it's a commentary in Aristotle.
Oh, I see.
Simplicius' commentaries include important transcriptions of older writings, such as this author's proem to his On Nature. This Eleatic philosopher makes the third man argument in his namesake Socratic dialogues.
Just Parmenides, right? Parmenides.
Yeah. Commentators on Aristotle disagree on an enigmatic half-page chapter from De Anima 3, in which Aristotle speaks of an active form of this concept that is unaffected and unmixed. Thomas Aquinas' text on the unity of this concept disputed the interpretation that Averroes advanced.
De Anima was about the soul. De Anima was about the soul.
That would be too easy.
Yeah.
You got
Virtue.
it's the intellect or mind.
There's no way that
Mix.
They got 10 points.
I had a score of 120 for Northwestern and 80 for Cambridge.
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
Toss of 11. An essay on male homosocial desire in this play from Hugh Sedgwick's Between Men discusses a scene in which a man forces his wife at night point to write a letter, which she then finishes in her own words when he leaves to get waxed. In a scene of this play set at New Exchange shopping mall, the protagonist buys fruit for it and kisses a woman disguised as a boy. A virtuous gang toasts wine for making their husbands short-sighted and gallants bold in the body Act 5 banquet scene of this play. An unwitting man shouts, "He's coming into you the back way," to his wife, who has locked herself in a room where the protagonist supposedly keeps a collection of fine ware in one scene in this play.
So is this the country life?
It is.
Yeah, it would be the China scene.
That's what it would be. Here's your bonus. A wall inscribed with the Res Gestae is the only remaining element of Vittorio Ballio Morpurgo's 1937 design for this pavilion, whose glass walls are filled with argon to filter incoming light for 10 points each. Name this museum, whose travertine placed white exterior features a low slope staircase. Its namesake object is a frieze of garlands hanging from the bucrania, as well as a panel depicting a goddess flanked by a swan and a dragon.
Possibly.
Yeah, it says an alternate. The pocket of the museum?
It's actually the Museum of the Arapakis. This American architect designed both the new Arapakis Museum and the Getty Center, whose white colors are typical of his style. This first all-black building, a glass residential tower, is under construction at 685 First Avenue. It's not that far from me. You should go see it. What do you got?
Minoru Yamasaki was white.
It's Richard Meyer. Meyer used a sleek white design for the city's contemporary art museum, Makba, which is called the Pearl due to its contrast with the nearby Bari Boutique. This city's hometown of Gaudi, Sagrada Familia, and Cartagena. All right, you get this one.
Yeah.
Here is toss of 12. Pages of this composer's diary indicate that he originally planned to base his final piece around the motto FFFF for Frisch, From, Frohlich, and Frei. In its final form, that piece is built on a series whose first 9 notes form a chain of ascending thirds, while the last 3 form a chain of ascending whole steps. George Pearl wrote a 2-volume study of the operas of this composer. In a piece by this composer for string quartet, all of the movements have an emotion as part of the starting tempo, such as the 5th, marked Presto delirando, and later Tenebroso. The 6th movement of that piece by this man, marked Largo Desolato, quotes from Tristan und Isolde in reference to his love affair with Anna Fuchs-Sorgentin. This composer of 7 early songs dedicated his last major piece to the memory
of Altenburg. Yeah, he was one of them.
Here's your bonus. The simplest way to make one of these circuits is to stick a resistor and a capacitor in series and take the output across the capacitor. And with each, leave these filter circuits that attenuate all signals above a certain cutoff frequency while allowing signals with smaller frequencies to go through.
Oh, no, yeah, so Low frequency, so low pass filter.
Okay.
Low pass filter.
Yes. Analysis of low-pass filters and many other circuits can be simplified using these quantities that represent sinusoidal voltages and currents as time-varying complex numbers, often written in polar form.
Phases. Well,
I don't know, because phasors are.
phasors, yeah. Yeah, it's not like they want I think
Phasor.
There you go.
Phasors.
A low-pass filter is used to cut out the AC components generated by multiplying the input and reference signal in these amplifiers, which extract signals with a known carrier frequency in very noisy systems.
It's lock-in.
That's right, 30
Well
points.
done.
Here is topic 13. An inhibitor of these protein functions via a 12 amino acid sequence upstream of an SH2 domain known as a KIR. A loss of function mutation in a gene that codes for a target of these proteins causes the autosomal dominant form of hyper IgE syndrome, which is named for the biblical Job. A V617F mutation in one of these proteins is present in many cases of NPN, especially in those with polycythemia vera. A 912 translocation associated with leukemia results in one of these proteins being combined with TEL. The rheumatoid arthritis drug tafasitamab inhibits one of these proteins, which are directly inhibited by SOX1 and SOX3. Type 2 is one of the 4 known proteins in this family that initiate a signaling cascade when cytokine kinase prompt.
Oh, no.
That's next one. That initiate a signaling cascade when cytokines bind to their receptors. For 10 points, name this class of tyrosine kinases that activate transcription factors called STATs in a signaling pathway named for both.
Jax. Just another
Just
Jax.
Wait, is that actually what this is?
Yes.
That is so
Here is your bonus. Democracy Now! Host Juan Gonzalez was a founding member of a branch of this organization on the East Coast. For 10 points each, name this leftist social organization that was founded in the Lincoln Park neighborhood of Chicago by Jose Chacha Jimenez. So you got
DSA.
it's the Young Lords.
Sure.
In New York, the Young Lords flourished in this section of a larger neighborhood that is a hotspot for U.S. salsa music.
I'm gonna try a thing. Don't laugh at me. Spanish Harlem.
That's correct. The Young Lords was founded by descendants of immigrants from this island, which was devastated by Hurricane Maria in 2017.
Yeah, it's still devastating.
Yeah. Puerto Rico.
It has not been undevastated.
I think
Spanish Harlem is a real place.
That's a really cool song.
Here is, that was one. Here is toss of 14. An attempt to predict this body's actions using classification trees was 75% successful, while expert-driven predictions were only 59% successful. In a 2004 paper whose authors include Theodore Ruger and Pauline Kim, Andrew Martin and Kevin Quinn used a Markov chain Monte Carlo method to model this body's progression using a dynamic ideal point model. A database named for this body is maintained at Washington University in St. Louis and is based on the research of Harold Spade. Spade had analyzed the actions of this body's members under an attitudinal model, in contrast to the strategic model that Lee Epstein has used. SUNY Stony Brook scholars.
So like members of the Supreme Court?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And he was going to be something like that.
I just nowhere near it.
It's like security council. It's pretty good.
Here is your bonus. The Chartist William Lovett organized a mass meeting at Copenhagen Fields to present a petition for leniency for these people for 10 points each. Name this group of 6 martyrs that included George Wallace, co-founder of the Friendly Society of Agricultural Labor.
Toll puddle markers.
That's right. Some of the Toll Puddle martyrs were sent to Van Diemen's Land, an island now known by this name.
Yeah.
Tasmania.
James Frampton falsely told Lord Melbourne that 2 of the Toll Puddle martyrs had participated in this earlier unrest. James Cooper of Wiltshire was one of the many men executed for supposedly being the namesake captain of these 1830 events.
Swing riots? Or was it Captain? Wasn't it Captain?
Yeah.
Okay. Swing riots? Good job.
The 30s.
No history about that. Easy.
Toss of 15. Rumors of rampant sex at an international event in this year gave rise to the term Diti Festivale, or festival children, describing biracial children who were born next year. The underground circulation of music records printed on medical x-rays began to diminish in this year when the Soviet stance on jazz was relaxed for the 6th World Festival of Youth and Students. In April of this year, the US and USSR agreed to preserve scientific records by establishing the World Data Centers in preparation for the July 1st beginning of the International geophysical year. The CIA began plans for the next year's Brussels World's Fair to distribute Russian-language copies of Dr. Zhivago after that book was published in Italy in this year. An American crisis that began on October 4th of this year included the failure of the Vanguard TV-3, and in the following year, the creation of NASA. Laika became the first animal in space on November of 13 points, what year in which the Soviet Union launched the first two Sputniks.
1957.
That is correct. Why? I don't love that question. Gotta say, here's your bonus. A collection named for this city contains Days of 1981, a poem that notes how emblems of our embarrassment became acceptable to us after a while, in reference to a lover's gift of a pottery heart. 10 points each. Name this city. The title is a 1983 location by Mark Doty, written after his partner was diagnosed with HIV. While working in the city political society, he wrote a UTF and compiled the Tanakh.
Alexandria.
This lengthy prose meditation on a painting by Jan David is among Doty's most celebrated writings. After describing the translucency of a fruity peel in this book, Doty explores the human tendency to view objects of meaning.
Still life with oranges.
Still life with oysters and lemon. Doty's influences included this author, whose self-portrait in the convex mirror is long meditation on a painting by Parmigianino. His man published Promotion of the Bird before dying in 2017.
I would go with that. That's right. He really just died.
Yeah, he died last week.
That was terrible.
I had a score of 180 Northwestern, 175 Cambridge.
That's very unfortunate. All right, topic 16. Brendan Burke has attempted to trace the Anatolian origins for the myth of this object by examining the mention of cornelian cherry wood in a fragment praising the Hittite storm god. Justin's account of how the namesake of this object met with a virgin augur at the town gate links the virgin to Kibboleth, whose iconography really places her in Norway. This object takes its name from a farmer who, according to Arian, consulted with a Tonessian maiden at a fountain after seeing an eagle land on the spot that this object would later occupy. That namesake of this object ended a civil war among the Phrygians when he fulfilled an oracle's prophecy by passing through an assembly on an ox cart. Aristobulus states that this object, which is named for the father of Midas, was destroyed.
Gordian knot.
Yes.
Oh. Here's your bonus. While out hunting, this man's son was killed by the goddess Anat, who in the shape of a falcon dropped a sack containing her servant Yathon on that young son's head. 10 points each. Name this Canaanite culture hero who's the subject of an ancient text found in Ugarit. In the text, his son Akat dies after refusing to give up a bow created by the divine craftsman Qatar, thereby bringing famine to the land.
You defer to Jason.
Another one I've been waiting to go up.
Take your shot. We don't.
Daniel.
That's right. The best-known cycle of Ugaritic myths concerns this Canaanite warrior storm god, whose name means Lord. The cycle details his battle with the sea serpent Yam and the death god Mot.
This is probably
Baal. Yeah. The people of the city worship a cognate of Baal named Baal Haman, who was the chief god of the city with his wife Tanit. They were dedicatees of child sacrifice that likely took place at a sanctuary in the city called the Tophet.
Memphis.
Carthage.
You guys are.
Oh, child sacrifice.
Like I said, defense.
Yes, that's what. Here's topic 17. In his biography of this show's composer, Dave Ewan argues that the opening number of this show is actually a repurposed piece originally written on commission for Paul Whiteman. For the film adaptation of this show, the lyricist was forced to revise the verse, "All the boys are feeling lusty, and the girls ain't even putting up a fight," in a song that links the time of year to sexual awakening. This show has come under fire for a scene where a character gets slapped, but remarks that it feels like a kiss. A spot owner assures her greeting cousin that there is a golden sky in the sweet and silver song of a lark if she can endure the death of this show's main character. This show, which adapts Ferenc Molnar's play of video,
Carousel.
It happens to be in this map.
That's how it goes. Here's your bonus. The bottom of this thing contains a memento mori of a cadaver tomb, shows the skeleton being replaced beneath the Latin inscription reading, "I once was what you are, and what I am you will also be," for 10 points each. Name this fresco that depicts two human donor portraits in front of an archway that brings a central scene.
Miss Hatcher's Trinity.
This artist went to
Miss Hatcher.
correct. The Holy Trinity was rediscovered in the Santa Maria Novella behind an altar designed by this artist while overseeing renovations. He deliberately placed his altar in front of the Holy Trinity to save it from destruction.
I think the song really did something in the
Okay.
100% sure. That's sorry?
That's right.
Nice.
30 points.
How many studies is that?
That's forward, yeah.
This is not happening. I have great promises, man.
We're up to flip on you right now.
What's the score?
215, 200.
Yeah. We have a
Here's toss
toss.
of 18. Oh, good. 3 tosses remaining. The first step of natural Taxol synthesis produces a diphosphate on a compound whose name indicates that it is one of these compounds. These compounds are the starting material on the polymerization method driven by the formation of ethylene, which produces large linear polymers from acyclic examples of these compounds. E and B and V and D are monomers with this functionality used to produce polymers called EPDM. These compounds are reacted in adenate, and a 4-carbon example polymerizes with
Alkenes.
Say again?
Alkenes.
I will prompt you.
Diamonds.
That is the correct answer. Thank you. Jorge Luis Borges solves the murder of Rothkopf at a literary conference dedicated to this author in Luis Verissimo's novel Borges and the Eternal Orangutans. 10 points each. Name this American author whose stories about Auguste Dupin inspired The Other Heaven, a story by his translator Julio Cortázar. Borges drew on Poe's The Purloined Letter for this story, which ends with Red Scarlat promising to trap its detective protagonist in a labyrinth made of the single straight line, which is invisible and everlasting before shooting them. What do you got?
Oh, no.
Death and the Compass. Like Luis Verissimo, this prolific Argentine author wrote a wacky novel set at a literary conference in this man's novel, and that scientist version of himself creates giant worms while trying to clone Carlos Fuentes. His novel That is correct. Your book, you get 20 points.
Got the hard part.
Here's toss 19. This man's greatest military triumph was realized on his 38th birthday when he marched his army into the capital and forced his enemy to retreat to the castle of San Juan de Ulua. This man ratified a treaty with the Jefe Politico Superior, Juan O'Donoghue, that was rejected by a government in the middle of the Trienio Liberal under the Constitution of Cadiz. This man had a tumultuous relationship with a general who he was sent to crush in 1820, was subsequently allied with for the next 2 years, and clashed with again. After that man allied with Nicolas Bravo. This on-again, off-again ally of Vicente Guerrero was proclaimed head of the Army of the Three Guarantees after he promised Catholicism, abolition of the caste system, and freedom from Spain in his plan of Iguala. The first independent Mexican state was led by, for 10 points.
Can you repeat it? What? Yeah.
That's the thing I should know.
Here is your bonus. Ellison Burton and William Sanjur first demonstrated the possible efficacy of this system in a series of microeconomic computer simulations conducted in 1970 at the NAPCA. The templates each named a system that in the EU proceeds via the PTS, which operates using credits and offsets.
PTS. Is that like?
What do you got?
Monetary policies.
No, it's cap and trade or emissions trading. Thomas H. Tiefenberg's book, Emissions Trading, traces the cap and trade system to the ideas in this economist's paper, The Problem of Social Cost, which introduces an intake theorem about externalities. Yes. This Yale economist and cap and trade skeptic developed the DICE and RICE models for analyzing the impacts of climate change. He took over editing the textbook Economics from Paul Samuelson in the 1980s.
It's one of the different. The main is Harvard.
Okay, bring it.
No.
It's William Nordhaus.
Alright,
Good luck.
let's do this,
All
guys.
right, let's talk. In one novel, The Symmetry of Fort Briendonk leads this person to imagine it as an anatomical blueprint of some alien and crab-like creature. This person weirds out on a family on a bus by asking for a photo of twins due to their resemblance to Franz Kafka, who stars in the book's next section, Dr. K Takes the Waters of Riva. In a third novel, this person reflects on Edward Fitzgerald's love for William Brown after leaving the house of his friend Michael Hamburger. At the start of that novel, this person narrates his discharge from a hospital and speculates that Dr. Tulp's anatomy lesson was witnessed by Thomas Brown. Unnamed fictional versions of this author of Vertigo walk around Suffolk in one novel. Seabold.
Well done.
We call that
You just
Rumors were spread among serfs in this province that the emperor had repealed the Ten Commandments, causing them to murder their rebellious masters in a namesake uprising, which points each. Name this region of the Habsburg Empire that witnessed the namesake slaughter in 1846, led in part by Jakub Zella, 2 years after a rebellion of weavers in nearby Silesia.
Okay. crazy slaughter in Bavaria, but I'm not.
What do you got?
Bavaria.
It's Galicia.
Yeah.
2 years later, Lajos Kossuth led a larger nationalist rebellion against the Habsburgs in this country. In 1867, the Habsburg monarchy recognized this country as an equal partner in Ausgleich. The Galician uprising had been dubbed the last peasant revolt in Europe, though that claim is also sweeped by 1907 peasants' revolt against this first king of Romania, who was the initial ruler of the Hohenzollern-Sigmaringian dynasty.
This is Carol the First.
That's right.
Yeah.
That is.
You have to do the chop.
265 payment rate.
Those are good guys. Yeah, good plan. Good game.
Well played.
Good
plan. Good day.
So the bonuses ended up like not producing a weird result. Toss it to 9-9,
Yeah.
converted better, and you won.